Who told you that? Well, hey, this is Don Woodard. Welcome to Life Relationships. Our mission is to help make life more meaningful by making our relationships more meaningful. Today, I want to share a life lesson with you that is covered or connected, I might say, to my new book called Seven Voices in Your Life. This book is available on our website, liferelationships.net. You can also order it from Amazon, and it's available on Kindle. So if you've not read that book yet, I encourage you to get it. It's a little different. We've gotten a lot of good, positive response from the book, Seven Voices in Your Life. You can find out a little bit more about it. I think you can read a chapter of it on our website, liferelationships.net. Don't hold me to the chapter thing, though, but I know you can see the book on there, liferelationships.net. Anyway, I encourage you to get it. So the foundation for our lesson today is on this question, who told you that? Sometimes in life, we get to experience something or we witness an event that has a lot of life lessons in it. I'm sure everyone has had those kind of experiences. I know that I had one of those such experiences when I was 19 years old. Now, I use this illustration from time to time, and I love it. Again, there's a lot of life lessons in this, so I call this the bridge story. The bridge story. When I was 19, I was working for a company, and I'll just say real quick, when I was 19, I was dumb as a rock. I didn't know which end was up, to tell you the truth. But I got this job, and working for this great company and learning a lot. And there was a gentleman who was training me, a young man, about 22 years old. His name was Dave. And so Dave had scheduled an appointment. And the way this worked was Dave was training me for a week or so, and a couple of days, I guess it was. I would go with Dave, and I would go with another person, then another person, and just kind of learn from all of them. This particular day, I was with Dave. Dave was 22, great guy. And so he and I are on our way to this appointment. We're in Dave's car, and I'm just riding along to observe what Dave does on the appointment. So on our way to the appointment, we come to a bridge. And when we get close to this bridge, it's just a two-lane street, little town. The bridge is going over this small, I would call it a river. And so we pull up, and we're getting close to the bridge. And so Dave pulls over to the side of the road, and he starts to perspire. And he looks at me and he says, "Put your seatbelt on." This was back before it was mandatory to wear a seatbelt. So he said, "Put your seatbelt on." I said, "Okay." Now, he had already put the car up in park, so he's putting his seatbelt on. I put my seatbelt on. He looks over at me, he looks around, he looks ahead across the bridge. He takes hold of the steering wheel with both hands. He says, "Are you ready?" I said, "Yeah, I'm ready." So he puts the car back into drive. He looks behind him. No one's behind him. And he, again, braces himself. He floors it. And we cross this bridge. We're going like 80 miles an hour over this bridge. We get across the bridge. He pulls over, and he puts the car back in park, and he's wiping perspiration off of his forehead, and he's catching his breath. He's out of breath. And so he kind of gets himself together, and he says, "Okay, are you ready?" I said, "Yeah." So we go on to the appointment. I thought, well, that's kind of odd. Well, on the way back from our appointment, we had a nice appointment. I observed Dave's presentation, and I learned on the way back from the appointment, we come to the same bridge. Same thing. Dave tells me, he pulls over, "Put your seatbelt on." I put my seatbelt on. He braces himself. "Are you ready?" "Yeah, I'm ready." And again, both hands on the steering wheel. He's all tense, and he floors it, and we drive across this bridge 100 miles an hour. He pulls over. He's wiping perspiration off his forehead and his face and his back of his neck, and he takes his seatbelt off, and he takes a minute and just gets his breath and calms his heart down, and it's just all the same thing. And so after we crossed the bridge the second time, I said to Dave, I said, "You know, Dave, I don't want to be offensive or anything, but I've never seen anybody so concerned about crossing a bridge. And so I just want to ask you. I said, Dave, have you had a bad accident on a bridge? Dave said, no. I said, well, Dave, did you see a bridge collapse or something? He said, no. I said, well, Dave, I said, have you seen somebody drown or something? He said, no. I said, well, again, I don't no offense, but he said, I said, I've never met anyone that disliked crossing a bridge so much. And then Dave responded with this, and here's where our lesson is in Dave's statement. Dave responded with this statement. He said, if you think I'm afraid of bridges, you should meet my dad. Let me say that again. Dave said, if you think I'm afraid of bridges, you should meet my dad. Wow. Who told Dave to fear bridges? His dad. Who told Dave to be afraid at all? His dad. Who told Dave it was dangerous to cross bridges? His dad. Who in Dave's mind was looking over his shoulder every time he had to cross over a bridge? His dad. In Dave's mind, who did Dave have to answer to about crossing over a bridge? His dad. I've thought about this a lot. My assumption is that Dave probably knew that if he had seen his dad that evening or within a couple of days of that experience, and he told his dad that he had driven across the same bridge twice in one day, I would imagine the 22-year-old Dave, I would imagine his dad would have come unhinged at him and maybe chewed out the 22-year-old Dave because he crossed over a bridge. I can imagine Dave's dad saying something like, Dave, haven't I told you, son, don't cross over bridges. You could get hurt. You shouldn't do that. They're dangerous. I could just kind of picture his dad doing that. Now, I'm sure that Dave's dad was a good man. I would not question his manners nor his character. Dave certainly was a man of character. He's a young man of character. He certainly had good manners. So I wouldn't question Dave's dad's character. But here's what I know. Dave's dad taught Dave to fear bridges. There's a lot of lessons for us in that story. And again, I've used this little story several times to make different applications, but I want to suggest a couple of relationship lessons from this little story. Number one, here's a question or a statement, not a question, a statement. Number one, use your influence carefully. Use your influence carefully. Our children, our grandchildren, our spouses, our friends, the people within our realm of influence are going to fear what we fear. They're going to, in many ways, respect what we respect, and they're going to believe what we believe. So use your influence carefully. Secondly, choose who you allow to look over your shoulder. This has helped me so much. Choose who you allow to look over your shoulder. You know, in life, we all have people to answer to. When we become adults, we can be a little more selective, you might say, in who we have to answer to. I've come to the conclusion that the number one person in my life I have to answer to is God. I answer to Him. In decisions I make in life, ultimately, I have to answer to Him. Now, I'm married, so I am responsible for what my wife believes or thinks or says to me. I have an accountability there. But choose who you allow to look over your shoulder. And here's what I mean by that. And let me say that this is something, again, that I've struggled with as a young adult. In our youth, we sometimes, especially our teen years, our childhood, and then even as a young adult, we sometimes have people telling us that we can't. We have people sometimes who will devalue us, people who are going to tell us that we will fail, or that we'll never amount to anything, or people who are always telling us something negative, always putting fear and doubt into our heart. And because those people tell us those things, sometimes when we get to that bridge we have to cross, we feel like we hear them sitting on our shoulder telling us to be afraid, telling us, you can't do this, you can't cross this bridge, you can't climb this mountain, you can't be successful in this. So with that said, don't let those people live on your shoulder or in your head. Okay, we'll say that again. Don't let those people, I call them the valley people, don't let those people live on your shoulder and speak into your mind, or don't let them live in your head. My third little thought, take inventory of what you believe. Take inventory of what you fear, and take inventory of how you see yourself. And a good place to start is simply ask yourself the question, who told me that? Who told you to be afraid of bridges? Who told you to fear that? Who told you that you couldn't? And then let me say this to you. Don't be afraid of the bridges in your life. You can do this. This is Don Woodard. Go make it a great day on purpose. Thank you for listening.